These guys aren't just flying under the radar anymore. They've already been making noise in camp and in preseason, and most of these guys are already rostered in your Dynasty leagues, but that doesn't mean you've missed your chance. Today, we're talking about my top 5 risers in Dynasty that you should be looking to buy before their value really spikes. So without further ado, let's get right into it.
Hey.
This guy looked really good week 2 of the preseason. I mean, he averaged over 10 yards a carry. Honestly, he only had 6 carries, but regardless, he looked phenomenal. Now, he was the RB83 last year. He didn't have much in terms of production. And why is he on this list then? Well, if you guys haven't been reading the news, Brian Robinson Jr. is pretty much 100% not going to play for the Washington Commanders this year. He is going to be traded fairly soon to another team. They've basically cut ties with each other until a trade goes through. So it's Chris Rodriguez and then another guy that I'll be talking about a little bit later on in the video. Stay tuned for that. But with Chris Rodriguez, he looked so good last week in the preseason. I'm curious if they're going to use this as like a 1A, 1B type of situation. At worst, he's the RB2 in this offense, which he's not rostered in the vast majority of leagues. I picked him up on a ton of my leagues here recently just because of the Brian Robinson Jr. situation. Yes, he's fairly limited in what he can do as a runner. He's not the best in terms of a pass catcher, but he is a powerful runner that could end up being the goal line back for this team. He's 6 foot 220, fairly big back, and you can see his value on Keep Trade Cut. It hasn't moved up just yet. Right, he's still sitting at a little over 1,000 in terms of his value, and he's the RB97, and that is pretty good value for a guy that's probably going to be the RB2, if not a 1A, 1B situation with the guy that I'll be talking about a little later on in this video. So Chris Rodriguez, definitely a guy that you should be picking up because he's basically free in the majority of your leagues unless your league is really paying attention. Next up, it's Calvin Ridley for the Tennessee Titans, and I will say, if you guys are rebuilding, he's probably not the guy you want to be going after, but if you're a middling team or you need more depth at the wide receiver position, you need a flex play, I think Calvin Ridley is the perfect value right now. He finishes the wide receiver 28 last year. He had a very quiet 1,000-yard season. He didn't have a ton of touchdowns, inconsistent usage as well because his quarterback play was so poor. He had Mason Rudolph and Will Levis all year last year. That's not the quarterback company you want if you want a fantasy-relevant wide receiver. But I will say, they drafted Cam Ward number 1 overall, and I wasn't the biggest fan of Cam Ward. He was my QB1 in the draft, but he had some issues, and I expected him to struggle against NFL defenses early on. He looks great in preseason. He looks phenomenal. He didn't have the best completion percentage in week 2 of the preseason because he had a few drops, but he has been dropping dimes all over the place, and most importantly, he has been spam targeting Calvin Ridley. They have a ton of chemistry together already, and Calvin Ridley doesn't really have much competition in that wide receiver room. They drafted Alec Ayomanor, who I do like, but he's a little bit raw of a prospect right now. He's going to need some time to develop, I think. So I think Calvin Ridley is the dominant wide receiver 1 in this offense. I'm not saying the Titans are going to be a top 10 offense this year, but I think Calvin Ridley is going to have a wide receiver 15 to wide receiver 20 finish, if not even higher than that, depending on how much Cam Ward targets him. So we look at him, he's already up in value a little bit because of the QB change, but he's still the wide receiver 45 just due to age. And you guys can throw a rookie pick at him, maybe a second-round pick and a player, something like that for Calvin Ridley. I think this guy is a solid flex play, a solid wide receiver 3 for your squads. His value is super tempting right now, and you should buy him while you have the chance. I've been talking about this player a good amount throughout the offseason. It's Brilan Allen for the New York Jets. So he's looked by far, in my opinion, to be the best running back on this New York Jets roster. That is including Breece Hall, guys. He's looked phenomenal throughout camp. He's super big. I mean, he's 6'1", 235, and he was a former 2,000-yard rusher at Wisconsin. Great speed for the size. I know he ran a 4.51, but man, he is super twitchy and fast. I was not expecting to see that on film with Brilan Allen. He is a lot quicker than you would think. And with the New York Jets, they've already kind of said that they're doing a committee. I don't think they're going to be as committed to Breece Hall this year, unfortunately, just because Breece Hall, he just isn't the same player he was during his rookie campaign just because of the injuries. I love his vision, but he's just not explosive anymore. And with Brilan Allen showing out last year, I know he didn't have the best yards per carry number, but he definitely shown some flashes at the running back position. And Isaiah Davis, another guy that could easily be on this list, I think is going to be their third down back. So with Brilan, he's already ran up the board a little bit on Keep Trade Cut. I want to say he's up like 20 spots right now. He's their RB 30 right now. He is going to turn some heads this year. He's got a ton of solid skill sets. He's very big. He's got tons of size, great speed, very surprisingly agile as well. I think Brilan Allen could see a ton of touches in 2025, so keep your eye out on Brilan Allen, and if you can get him in a trade for cheap, that is going to be a huge win for you guys. I've been talking about this kid for a long time. If you guys were watchers of the channel way back before training camp started, I was talking about Jakori Kroski Merritt. And guys, his value's through the roof right now. It is. People are reaching on him. I saw him picked in the 6th round of a startup, which is absolutely insane, but for good reason. This kid is very, very talented. He has some insane burst that shows up all over his film at New Mexico and Arizona. He blew me away on film. He was one of the last running backs that I scouted because there wasn't a lot of info on him. He played one game at Arizona in 2024, and then his season was cut short due to eligibility issues. I've talked about him in a ton of videos. He might easily be the RB1 for the Washington Commanders with his performance. I know his yards per carry metric looks a little bit better than it actually is because he broke a long touchdown. But guys, he is very, very good. And him and Chris Rodriguez, I think, are both phenomenal buys right now. I know his price seems a little high right now, but I think his price will continue to go up, especially if he ends up getting 10 to 15 carries a game at the minimum. So Jakori Kroski Merritt, especially once Brian Robinson Jr. moves on to another team, his value is going to skyrocket. You look, in the last 6 months, he's basically went from nothing to over almost 2,500 value. He's the RB 51. I want to say a month or two ago, he was like the RB 100. It was crazy. So he's moved up a ton of spots, guys. And I think he could easily be in that RB 30 to 35 range, around where Brilan Allen is right now. You guys need to pick him up while you can, because once he starts showing out in the regular season, it's going to be too late to buy this kid. It may seem a little ridiculous to have a guy like Trayvon Henderson on this list. While he is a big-time riser, he isn't a guy that you can really just go trade for in your leagues unless you really want to overpay. But I think Trayvon Henderson is one of the few players in the NFL right now that is worth an overpay. Trayvon Henderson was my RB2 pre-draft. He was the only other guy in my S tier with Ashton Genty. You can go back and look at that video. He's phenomenal because of the explosive upside. You see the best comparable player here, Reggie Bush. I know that's more so athletic comparisons, but he has more upside than Reggie Bush. I think he's up there with Jahmyr Gibbs in terms of an explosive runner. And guys, you see the 4.43 40-yard dash. He runs faster than that, if you can believe that. You saw his first touch was a 100-yard kick return. I mean, he is phenomenal. He has all of the best blends of everything. He's got great speed, phenomenal burst, great power as well. He will run you over. If you watched him in the preseason, he was constantly just bulldozing through people, making people miss, shedding tackles, and just bursting his way all around the field. He is one of my favorite players in the NFL right now, and he hasn't even taken a regular season snap yet. That's just insane. Now, there is one knock on Trayvon Henderson right now, and that is he's probably in a committee right now. I think he'll get 12 to 15 carries a game. Ramondre Stevenson is there. I think he's going to be the short yardage back, goal line back. But I think Trayvon Henderson, he was picked early in the second round, so he's going to get the first and second down work, the third down work as well if they're in a passing situation. He just has all of the high-value touches that are going to get funneled through him in this offense. And like I said, if you watched him in the preseason, he was phenomenal. Pretty much every time he got the ball, he was making somebody miss, running over somebody. He's the RB7 right now on Keep Trade Cut. You can see his value has rows and rows and rows, and I think it's going to continue to rise. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a top 5 back on Keep Trade Cut by the end of the season. The one thing that we need to be concerned with is he does have some injury history. He did get hurt 1 year at Ohio State, and his best season at Ohio State was his true freshman season. So he does have, some inconsistencies with his production just because of the injuries. But guys, he's super efficient, super explosive. And if you have some way to convince the owner of Trayvon Henderson in your leagues to trade him to you, overpay for him if you need to, he will pay dividends for you in the future. And that wraps up the list of my top 5 Dynasty Risers you should be targeting right now in your leagues. These players are already gaining some steam, but you can still get ahead of the curve if you're aggressive in your trades. Don't wait until their price tags get out of hand. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and join the Bobby's Big Board Discord. The link is down below as always. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.
Hey.